during our meeting. Okay, I would like to open the meeting and welcome everybody to the February 8th, 2022 meeting of the general membership of REA. It's great to all see you again this month. Just some reminders that the minutes of our past meetings are included in our newsletter. They're also posted, eventually they get onto our website so you can review them there. Similarly, the board minutes are also posted on our website. So again, if you're interested in attending our board meeting, we've always published a way to do it. You email our secretary the day before and he will email you the link to get in or give you the phone number. And you can join us by telephone if you want. Treasurer's report, we're still doing well. Karen Butler, our treasurer. What we do is if you want copies of her report, the board reviews it every month at our board meeting. And we accept those reports. And if any of our members wish to see those reports, you can email the treasurer and she can send you a copy if you'd like to see it. I hope you saw the good coverage about the Prop B progress. We periodically updated you. Prop B, of course, is the infamous provision back in 2012 that was voted by the electorate illegally, if you will, and prevented people from 2012 to 2010 from being admitted to the pension system. And as you know, the 10-year court battle was successfully waged, and the articles in the paper have chronicled the fact that the two of the unions have reached agreement with the city on how to undo that. The MEA and 127 have both reached agreement. The 145 and local deputy city attorneys unions are next up and are still in discussions. But from the what we understand and by talking to a variety of people, that's gone very, very well. I think the city's position on this has been excellent and has helped figure out a way. It'll be interesting because both the 127 and MEA are allowing people to either join the pension system, which is of course our preference, or if they want to keep their 401k type of thing, they can do so. So it's an interesting solution. A little bit about last month, I announced that the board had decided to propose to the membership a dues increase of $1 a month. And in our February newsletter, we gave a very detailed justification for why we're proposing that and why we think our membership should approve it. In our February physical edition, which is just a 2-pager, we didn't have the room to publish the 2-page justification, so we provided instructions. All you have to do if you want to read that is to contact our call center, our contracted call center for REA. The number is 888-730-4935, and they are happy to mail you a copy of that 2-page justification. A big reminder that March 8th, our next meeting, is when this will be presented to the membership for their approval. And so if you have interest in that and you want to participate in that discussion, be sure and join us next month, where we'll have you will have a chance to state your position and to vote on the proposition that's being put forward by the board. At this point, I'd like to ask Stacy Lemetico. Where are you, Stacy? There you are. Give us an update about our volunteer program. Stacy?
Thanks, Dick. So everybody, you may be aware that part of REA is image enhancement and also still active in the community, still giving back. And the board established a goal of creating a volunteer program, which we started in September. So this is the 6-month timeline. We have 36 participants in the program, And the whole idea is to engage not only amongst ourselves, but also to give back to the community. We anticipated doing 6 events a year, and we've already had 3 in the past 5 months, with another one in March. We started out, we did a cleanup with Groundwork San Diego at the Earth Lab location that was held in December. We also did an event in where we went to the Restore, which is Habitat for Humanity's resale store in Kearny Mesa. If you haven't been there, it's a plug. It's got great items, household items, electrical, lighting, and I would highly suggest all the proceeds go to Habitat for Humanity, a little plug there. And then just last week, 3 of us volunteered at Torrey Pines for the Undertow, which is the fundraiser for Park and Recreation Department. Our next big event is 2 of our volunteers will be reading to children and participating in REA's Read Across America with Councilmember Sean L. Rivero, as well as Baker Elementary, and participants including our library director, Misty Jones. And then we hope to do more with the city of San Diego in the different departments and programs. So that's just a little bit of what we've been doing in the last 6 months. If you're interested, there's always a blurb with my email address. Please shoot me an email and I'll give you the outline of the program, and we'd love to see you at our volunteer event.
Thank you very much for your leadership of this program, Stacy, and want to encourage all those that who haven't participated yet, send her an email. And the thing I like about it is she presents, once you're in the program, she presents opportunities, and it's up to you to say whether it's a good fit or not. And so it's entirely voluntary. There's no pressure on you to participate. So it's kind of matching you with what your interests are. And I think it really ties so well into our theme of still serving the community, which is a vital part of our overall image and enhancement program that's been going on now several years. Okay, thanks again, Stacy. Cynthia Queen, our membership services director, is out right now on leave, but she'll be back next month, we hope. So we miss her, but Ray Rodemaker, the CEO of CSRS, is with us as he usually is. And I'd like to, first of all, I want to thank Greg and thank the staff for getting out the 1099 forms that we all need to file our income tax. I think it was an all-time record speed by which those were put out, and I really appreciate it. We had a problem a few years ago, and boy, they went to work on it and got that straightened out. And I think we mentioned last month, Greg, the great positive news coverage we've got of late for the actuarial evaluation and the great performance last year. So, Greg, give us some comments.
All right. Well, thank you, Dick. It is so much fun to see everybody this morning. And on behalf of Cynthia Queen, hello to everybody. I know she does such a wonderful job saying hi to everyone, but we'll save that for next month. ST-CSRS is doing well. Business operations are doing well. As they say, you know, it takes a whole village to get those retirement checks out, and everybody's working well together. So, as they say, the plane is flying normal, hot, and level. So we're doing pretty well. And Dick, thank you for the nice shout out on those tax forms. I know it really hurt the whole SD-CSRS team when those mail trucks got stuck in the Midwest a couple of years back, and it really helped motivate the team to like say, what can we do to make sure that never ever happens again? And we got a good vendor that not only got the 1099 tax forms mailed early, but we also got them posted on the internet early for those that wanted them right away. So I think it's one of those projects that you have to wait until that December payroll runs, and then you have to run around in circles with your hair on fire for 2 weeks to get that project done. I'm just really proud of the team to get it done and get it done right. We've got to get those tax forms correct. And based on the feedback that we're getting from the call center, very low calls on the 1099 tax forms. So things are going well. The investment fund is holding steady. As you know, we had a great year last year. This year, It's been kind of level. So not as an amazing year as last year, but we're holding steady. And speaking about investments, I wanted to share the news that our Chief Investment Officer, Liza Christofi, has announced her retirement. So Liza, after a long and successful career in the finance industry and lately here with SD SIRS over this past 10 years, is retiring. And so we'll be searching for her replacement. And another retirement at SD SIRS team is one of those behind the scenes heroes, someone you probably never hear about, but has been shouldering a very heavy load over many, many years and helping the retirees behind the scenes. And that's Bonnie Schmidt. She's going to be retiring coming up here pretty quick. And so we'll be looking to replace her on the team also. With regards to Prop B, just real quick, Dick pretty much laid out all the groundwork there. Just to share with you that we are working with the city on an implementation timeline. And it looks like it's going to be probably towards the end of the year before we wrap this project up for what we call phase 2. Phase 1 was putting in new hires in July. Phase 2 is what do you do with the people, like Dick said, between 2012 and 2021. And that's pretty much going to take through the end of the year with regards to crunching the numbers and counseling people and having people make those choices. So it's a little busy down here at the retirement office, but we're getting it done. Oh, and before I leave Prop B, there is 3 videos that were put together to help the active members make a decision. And our very own Jessica Taylor, I'm hearing, put together the best video. So thank you, Jessica. Appreciate your help on that. Back to you, Dick.
Let me ask you a question, Greg. How is the education part of the Prop B enrollment going to be handled for the members that have to make a choice?
Yeah, the education piece, what we're starting with are educational webinars and written communications. That is the educational game plan at this point. I know there's been some talk about trying to do one-on-one counseling. That starts to get problematic when you try to do one-on-one counseling with 4,000 people. But I think the city and the unions are still talking about that.
Great. Well, thank you again, Greg, for your outstanding work. I hadn't heard about Liza retiring, but I wish her the best. When is she leaving?
She'll be with us through the end of July.
Great, great. Well, she's done an awesome job over the years of investment portfolio, and the trust fund has done superb. So congratulations, pass my best wishes along and our best wishes to her. Okay, thank you all very much. I'd like to adjourn our business meeting, and we'll now go to our program. And of course, we all know Scott Lewis. I just want to say a few things. Scott has been very gracious and has given us presentations for a number of years now, very regularly, and they've always been superb. I'm looking forward to today's presentation. And as I've done in the past, I'd like to let you know, Scott, that REA values our partnership with Voice of San Diego. We value the independent journalism, independent investigative journalism that the Voice stands for. For our members, you should know by now, if you don't, that we've been in a partnership, financial partnership with Voice of San Diego for several years, and have really appreciated it. Because we support what they do, and that's a part of our mission as well. And I don't know if you've noticed, but the Voice puts out a daily, Monday through Friday, what they call a morning report. Goes to some, I think, 30,000 or so subscribers. And as a part of our partnership, we get a header and a footer on that publication. So it goes out. We get good publicity. Jim's going to show you the footer that we've recently added, for example, here that allows us to, from time to time, if you can see this, it gives a little message on the footer, which is at the end of the morning report, talks about our Read Across America Day. So we not only get about, and that's going to occur in March. So we not only get at the top on our logo and our name and everything, and which is connected to our website. But at the end of the morning report, we get to put in a little message about what we've been doing lately. And we've added a number of different things, such as our food bank drive and this Voice Across San Diego and so forth. Thanks, Jim. And let me just finally say to Scott that we really value the partnership. I have been a member of REA, of Voice of San Diego for a good number of years now, and I would encourage you all to become members as well. And then you get invited to other special events and so forth, and it's really worth the small investment. But with that, Scott, I'd like to introduce you and have you take it away. He's got to be unmuted. There you go.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Dick, and thank you, everybody, Jim and Joe. I'm sorry I can't be there in person with you. I think, are you sending me spaghetti, or is that?
Yeah, this is like a running thing. He says a few years ago.
No meatballs. What's going on? I mean,
well, you know, a few years ago when we were meeting in person, he said, "Well, you know, I really enjoy coming here, and I'll keep coming as long as you keep giving me lunch." So, we haven't.
I love the lunch. I love chatting and catching up with everybody. So I'm sorry we can't do that this time. I was just looking at the numbers. The Omicron seems to be in retreat, at least. Obviously, still some folks struggling in the hospital, but it's nice to see the numbers come down as fast as they are. So the governor, of course, just announced that they'll take off the mask mandate for next week as far as indoor areas. And my kids heard that and thought it meant schools, and they got very excited, but I told them that not yet on that. So they used to be really good troopers about the masks, but they seem to have gotten sick of them. So we'll see how this goes. Our family had to deal with getting the Omicron last month. That was no fun, but it was obviously our bodies were pretty well prepared for it, and it worked out just fine. It's just kids got to be home for a little bit longer than they might have been with a normal flu. So quite a time still in San Diego and in the country, obviously in the state. We are beginning our conversations about how to handle the city and the county's elections that are upcoming. There's some pretty exciting ones developing, and there's some initiatives that may or may not happen that we're watching closely on. So I'd love to talk to you about anything along those lines. If you have any questions about ballot initiatives or about city policies that you've heard about or thinking about, or any of the big political debates that are happening. I personally have been on something of a historic odyssey lately, been thinking a lot about the history of San Diego. Strange sound. Been thinking a lot about the history of San Diego as I poked at a question that I'd had for many months. I had wondered how the city had come to own the land under and around the sports arena in the Midway district. And a lot of people I asked just hadn't known off the top of their head, and my colleagues didn't know. And so poked around a little bit more and found a fascinating article from the San Diego Reader in 1992 that sent me through a rabbit hole of intriguing information and revelations that I had never heard about. For just some background, I live in Ocean Beach, live right off that sort of West Point Loma area, and the sports arena itself has been a part of my daily vista for quite a long time, it seems like now. And I got to say, I'll never look at it again in the same way. I was really intrigued and interested in the history behind that, and in the history of what's called the Frontier neighborhood. So that Sports Arena Boulevard used to be called Frontier Street, and Frontier used to be the site of about 2,500 or 3,500 homes built by the federal government to handle a housing crisis, a crisis that was so severe. I pulled up an old Saturday Evening Post article from 1941, before the war, had started in that summer, and the mayor of San Diego was driving the reporter from the Saturday Evening Post around San Diego, and it got to the point where the reporter was shocked to see the squalor and homelessness in the streets. Mission Valley at that time was just a series of temporary encampments, tents and trailers. The roads were filled with people living on the sides of the roads in their cars. And he apologized to the reporter. This was Mayor Benbow. And he said, you know, a year ago, we would have never allowed people to live like this, but what are we going to do? We have no choice right now. And I just, that resonates with me with what we're dealing with in the city of San Diego right now. Thousands of people living in the streets, encampments at a level higher than they've been since 2016, especially downtown, but all throughout the areas. We're trying to understand exactly what's behind that. There's some short-term issues about Caltrans, and the governor are determined to push people off of their property, which is leading for more people to be in downtown and Pacific Highway area and stuff like that. But obviously there's a deeper, bigger problem. And I think we can't really divorce that problem from San Diego's history and the way that we've been for a long time. So in 1941, what the city was dealing with was just a tremendous influx of migrants from other parts of the country who came seeking the booming jobs that were being offered in the defense industry for aircraft manufacturing and for defense buildup. Obviously, the war hadn't started, but certainly there was some indication something was coming. That employment, we've always heard about that debate between the geraniums and the smokestacks, right? The smokestacks wanted to create jobs and wealth out of what San Diego offered, and the geraniums wanted to keep their homes, secure and pretty, and the gardens pretty, and make it a nice place to live. And we've always heard about that debate as though one side would win for a while and another side would win for a while. And I think that as I looked through the history, what became clear to me is that they kind of both won. The smokestacks were allowed to create all the jobs that they wanted and build all the manufacturing facilities and wealth building industries that they wanted. And the geraniums were allowed to protect their neighborhoods and keep people out, literally with racial restrictions in some of them. And the result was these periods of just abject, extreme housing shortages and homelessness, and then eventually it would result in more sprawl out into the distance, so that homes could be accommodated farther and farther away. And I think that that history was really powerful for me as I looked at what was happening in the city right now, as we grapple once again as a community with thousands of people living in the streets, with the health impacts of that, the mental health, and the trauma that we see in these encampments every day, the drug abuse that we see, and then the city's just paralysis about how to handle it. And I think that you combine that in that reality with the fact that our rents were up 26% last year. We were the 6th highest increase in home rents in the nation last year. 26% increase. We also are adding jobs at a high clip. 4,000 new jobs were added just in December. So we're kind of back in that same world. We're creating a ton of jobs, creating them fast. We're not building a lot of housing to keep up, at least not proportional. And rents are skyrocketing, and there's thousands of people living in the streets. So there's a lot of this is I'm carrying with me through these discussions as we read about these ongoing debates about people protecting their neighborhoods, and I think from a lot of legitimate motivations, while also people struggling to live here. In the next 3 weeks, I think in mid-March, our team is going to produce a week-long series of stories around San Diego's cost of living crisis. So not just the housing, which we all know about. We have the highest power rates in the country. We have the highest water rates in the country. We have very high fuel costs. It costs a lot of money to buy, store, lease, and operate and maintain automobiles here. And yet, to function as a citizen, a productive citizen in San Diego, you need to have an automobile. There are obviously alternatives, but it's very difficult to manage a professional life with public transit right now. And so you add up all the costs, the housing costs, the cost of fuel, the cost of maintaining a car, insuring a car, storing a car, the taxes, just the utilities, and everything adds up to a very significant burden on families these days. And I think that the next 5 years, if not 10 years, if not the rest of our lives in San Diego are going to be defined by people struggling with that, either accommodating it and somehow overcoming the challenges, or falling into abject and rather disturbing poverty, or leaving. And I think that history again comes back to haunt us. Are we going to continue to build the jobs and create the jobs that we are at such a high clip here, while not keeping up with housing, or are we going to change that pattern in any way? And I think a lot of those debates are going to be on our ballot this summer as well, or this summer and fall. And then some very big discussions, like we always have, about what level of taxation we're going to be willing to support in order to fund some of the infrastructure that people say is needed for these kinds of things. And we're watching some developments happen with that as well. So I don't mean to be grim. There's a lot of beautiful things obviously still about San Diego, and I love being here and working here. And I think that this place has the potential to tackle and the strength to tackle some of its most difficult challenges. But I think we have to be clear-eyed about what they are, and they are stark right now. In addition to just the homelessness that's at the top of everybody's survey about what disturbs them and worries them about San Diego, we have infrastructure challenges. We have parks that are in a state of deterioration that should embarrass a lot of us. We have roads that aren't being kept up at the level I think a lot of people expect. We have very inequitable experiences in schools, and vastly different opportunities within even sometimes the same districts. We have a lot of challenges, I think, to address head on. And so I like to say that talking about it that frankly and directly is a form of optimism, again, because I believe that San Diego's a strong enough community to address those challenges head on, and that we're not going to be able to unless somebody's sort of talking about them directly all the time. So I think as we emerge from this latest wave of COVID, we're going to see, I think, another burst of euphoria about that. Hopefully the Padres start playing again, the sun comes out, everything starts feeling that light breeze of spring in San Diego. But I think that there's still around the park, around Petco Park, around the sports arena area, there are these big long-term challenges and polemics that we still have to grapple with. We'll be watching the city's effort to redo the whole sports arena thing. We'll be watching the city's effort to put its employees back into SD Serves and back into your well-known world. Joe, I remember we started covering pensions when you were on the pension board back in 2003, 2004, was it? Yeah, there was a lot changed and a lot still the same. So we'll be making sure the city makes good on that. But, it has a profound workforce challenge right now as well. Recruiting people to clean out park bathrooms is not something it's able to do right now, and it's showing in its services and in the status of some of these places. I'm involved personally in managing my daughter's softball league, the Peninsula Youth Softball Association, and Robb Field is a bit of a mess right now. The bathrooms and such are very sometimes quite disturbing places, and I think if we're going to build a city that people are living closer together in, we need places they can go that are well maintained, that are relaxing and nice and open, and those aren't always available. So how do we balance that? So I think there are a lot of really interesting discussions going on, from races that are upcoming. I think as far as the city council, the main race that we're watching is the District 2 city council race. District 6 is sort of interesting. District 2, though, seems like to be the real barn burner this year. We'll be watching a little bit of the county supervisor race. The sheriff's race is going to be really interesting. Chula Vista has a fascinating mayor's race going on right now. There's a couple of races for assembly that are really interesting. Lorena Gonzalez's old seat. There's a couple of friends fighting each other for that. There's a big sort of North City assembly race going on as well. That one's between Democrat and Republicans. You might remember Republicans. They think they might have a chance to get an assembly seat. So they might, maybe they'll make an effort to be relevant in local politics again. We'll be watching for that. No signs of that yet. But so those are all the different things I'd be willing to talk about. I'd also be willing to talk about anything about the media, the NFL, and city, any of those things. If anybody wants to go, I really like to take your questions and go from there. If that's okay, if anybody has anything they would like to get me started about, I'm ready.
And let's open it up here while we're getting people. Raise your hand if you want to talk. Karen?
Yeah, hi, Scott.
Hi.
One of the things that bother me is I know that there are some streets that get paved and repaved, and it's like they have, I don't know, some sort of a priority over everything else, and other streets haven't been paved at all over those same years. And even though we put in requests, and it's as if they're just completely ignored.
Yeah.
And we don't know how to tickle the city into trying to listen to our requests. So we totally understand that there's, I don't know, some sort of, anyways, it's very frustrating.
Well, you are not alone, and our journalists have been mobilized. I think over the next, we have that cost of living project coming up. Within a month after that, we should have a project that answers or attempts to answer those questions, because we get that question after homelessness more than anything else. Is how in the world does the city make its decisions about what streets it maintains and what streets it neglects? And yes, that very paradox that you described, where there's some that seem to be getting, new slurry or even a full repavement more often than some that don't get touched at all. Or you'll see one get redone and then dug up for a utility line. Now they're supposed to be synchronizing those a lot better than in the past. So we're going to spend a good while in the next few weeks looking into that. We've already talked about the team that's going to work on that to try to provide both some explanatory work about how it all is working. And in the process, we hope to uncover, hopefully, some reasons why we continue to see deterioration and yet hear about all the money and the ribbon cuttings and all kinds of things going on. Now, the mayor has also apparently picked up on this, and there are a series of workshops being launched in the next 2 weeks that I can get the link for and share with you here he thinks to help answer those questions, but have a suspicion they won't answer those questions very well. So
A follow-up, if I
Yes.
may.
Mhm.
What do you think about if the citizens, like I'm thinking about Rob Field,
Yes.
if different teams, for instance, that are using the fields, if they would volunteer to do cleanups at the restrooms, for instance, and since they're not being done, get
Yeah.
them cleaned up.
That's a really interesting and relevant point for me. So that's where we're at as a softball league, where we're offering to redo the bathrooms as best we can, repaint, stuff like that. But there's a tremendous amount of resistance and bureaucracy in the middle of that you can't do one bathroom without doing them all. You can't do one bleachers set without doing them all and making them ADA compliant, all kinds of different restrictions that go along with that. So there is a like guerrilla effort sometimes of like just do things and then maybe the city can get mad and then you have to say you're sorry, but that's not the way I'm able to operate as a public figure. So so those kind of conversations are happening at every park right now as groups just get to the point where they're very upset and frustrated about the situation, while also having some resources and volunteer hours available. But the restrictions on deploying those, getting permits or getting permission are immense. And Rob, in fact, is dealing with a really interesting problem right now. The pickleball enthusiasts have zeroed in on Rob Field. They want to take over the old Point Loma Tennis Association courts, kick out the tennis association, and turn all those courts into pickleball courts. And they're promising to invest a couple $1 million. But Ed, who runs the tennis association, there's been there for decades, taught generations how to play, and so he doesn't really want to leave, and he's up to date on all his compliance with the city and such. So it's just these kind of discussions about privatizing parts of the park will continue as they get parts of them get neglected. So that's an interesting little issue. Sorry, get off.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jim Barras has his hand. Jim?
Hi, Scott. Thanks. Can you give us a little background from your perspective and news research about what's behind what I call attacks on the community planning groups? I've been on one, full disclosure, I've been on one for several years over here in Normal Heights. And it seems to me we try to provide valuable input to the city, but Joe LaCava is trying to help out a change, which seems to be a hurdle for those community planning groups. Thanks.
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting discussion. There has been a historical complaint about community planning groups that they have, although no direct power over projects and approvals, that they obviously have a soft power over projects and approvals, and that those groups in particular have not been representative of the areas around them, and thus have resulted in the appearance of opposition to things when in fact they aren't representative of the broader neighborhood that they're supposed to represent. And then of course the answer to that is, well, everybody can get involved, everybody can get a seat. My understanding of his push is he says, try to make sure that they are able to withstand this criticism over the next few years and remain relevant, as opposed to what I think others would like to do, which is either completely eliminate them or really just dry up their influence of whatever of which remains. Again, they can only recommend things, but the voice of them has been, I think, perceived to be hostile to the efforts to address the housing crisis and not representative of people of color, all kinds of different things. So I think his plan or his approach is to say, like, he comes from that world. He wants to protect its influence, and so I think he's trying to make that balance of, like, you guys need to be clear-eyed about this challenge that's coming, and this is one way we can address it before they do something more drastic. I don't have this, I can't do a really good explainer of how he would deal with it, but I've definitely heard of it, and I'll make a note to follow up and see if there's room for more explanatory work to be done.
You raise your hand. Brad?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to follow up on that, because one of the big issues with the community planning groups that I always found very frustrating is that they really don't reach out into the community. There's no notifications of when the meetings are, how you attend the meetings. I'm fortunate that I have a friend who's running on Uptown Planning Group, so he keeps me informed of when I need to go down and vote to get people on. But even when I was working at the city, it was really frustrating. It's like, who are these people? How do they get this influence? They kind of actually become a little cliquish, and so I think they need to do more outreach to the community itself. They're really bad about that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things they're trying to do is just make it easier to join one or to run for a seat if you, you don't have to, right now, I think you have to attend a certain threshold of meetings before you can be eligible to run, that kind of thing. I think he wants to make it a lot easier for people to be there, to hear about the meetings, like you said, stuff like that. I think he's trying to proactively protect what would be a much more drastic change, if not elimination of them.
Okay, let me ask one, and then I'll get to Joe. Scott, one of the things that you folks did a great job with is the 101 Ash Street scandal.
Yeah.
You uncovered, you kind of jumped it up to a great degree. Where is this headed?
I think it's really interesting right now. As a matter of fact, I think the city and a few others see a way out. And that's last week, or I think, was it yesterday? Either last week or yesterday, they rejected a settlement offer. Yeah, it was last week. So just the status. So it's actually right there, the building. So the the city leased to own that building with the intent of workers working out of it, and when they moved workers in, the workers had to move immediately out. The little asbestos that was found proved to be the undoing of what seems like a rather corrupt arrangement. And if that asbestos hadn't been found, frankly, I worry, like, we would have never known where $10 to $15 million in the deal had gone and who had made that money. And I think they realized that too, and wish that asbestos hadn't been disturbed the way it was. So asbestos being disturbed is sometimes, I guess, a good thing in a weird way. But the point right now is the city believes that criminal activity occurred that lured them into this arrangement. That in particular, the broker who had been advising the city since 2014, when Bob Filner invited him to advise the city on its real estate deals and its challenges in getting people a place to work around downtown, literally renting offices. He came in, Jason Hughes did, and helped the city renegotiate several leases and help them lay out a plan for how their workers could be stored over these next few years without having to build a new city hall. And he said he was doing it for altruistic reasons and also for his own clients, that if he could make sure that the city got good deals, then his clients, who are also renting offices downtown like mine, would get better deals as well. So that was the sort of theory about why this man was working for free for the city. What became clear later is that he well, as we revealed, he actually had a contract with the landlord who was selling the city this building, that he would share in the building's profit, in the profits of this deal at 45%, or he would pay 45% of the losses of the company if the city didn't make the deal. So he wasn't just getting a fee or whatever for his service. He was literally, in a way, advising the city while it was negotiating with him as a partner in the landlord's situation. So it's about as conflicted as a man could be in that situation. He made about $4.5 million off the 101 Ash Street, and it was revealed that he had a similar arrangement for the city's lease to own of the building that the city attorney's in at Civic Center. So that altogether, he made about $9.4 million off of those arrangements in a capacity where all public disclosures and all public discussion had been around the fact that he was volunteering for the city. So the city believes that was a criminal conflict, and believes that it can unravel all of its arrangements and deals with regard to both of those properties because of his conflict there. If they are successful, then they could get out of all of these deals and maybe even recoup some of those costs. The counter argument, of course, is he says, like, I told the mayor I was going to get some money. Now, he doesn't say, A, that he disclosed it officially that he was getting paid, or that he disclosed that he had a contract with the other side. He doesn't say any of that. All he says is that I told the mayor I was going to get paid. And I'm not quite sure how that's a great defense, other than it implicates the mayor as well. But that's the one argument. The other argument is that even though there was a conflict of interest, this was still a deal that the city must maintain with these investors. So where we're at right now is, my understanding is that there was a settlement discussed last week that was between the city and the people who literally invested and own that building or are leasing it to us. And the city rejected that because there's concern about what it would do if it did gain control of that building. Would it demolish it? Would it do something else? Now, simultaneously, Sandag has announced that with its properties downtown, it would like to take all of that land, build a hub that it's been trying to do for a long time for all the storage of its buses and such, and a new headquarters for itself, while also relocating the plans for a major Grand Central Station downtown. So there is some thinking that the city could take control of that building, redo its entire Civic Center Plaza plan, in conjunction with that transit center that Sandag wants to build, and the entire C Street corridor could be redeveloped, maybe creating some housing and all kinds of things. So those of you who worked in City Hall, it probably wasn't in great shape when you were there. It certainly is not the most attractive building these days. Now, whether it needs to be completely replaced or not is certainly an open debate, but that is one way out. So we're not quite sure what the city's leverage is at the moment, whether it will push for a better settlement or whether it'll keep fighting for this. Simultaneously, there is a criminal investigation going on about the alleged fraud and conflict of interest that Hughes is accused of engaging in. So I think that's the latest on that. There's some other side dramas going on that I'd be happy to talk about for hours, but that seems to be the meat of it.
All right, Joe Flynn. You gotta unmute, Joe. Can you unmute, Joe? I'm gonna have to pass you up.
I think Gene had something, right?
Gene, okay, Gene, let's go to Gene. You're gonna have to Gonna have to unmute there.
Okay,
Hey, Jean.
my question is there any further information about that really ugly story of an arsonist torching parked cars? And I think it was Mira Mesa.
Oh, I don't know about that one. I'm sorry. We don't do a lot of sort of smaller crimes. I thought you were going to mention the arsonist that torched Supervisor Nathan Fletcher's house.
Well, that's another one.
Yeah. So that was deemed, I think, a little bit under the radar, an actual suspected arson. They believe it was an arson, and there's been no developments that I know of in the hunt for that. But I do not know about the Mira Mesa one. I'm sorry.
Joe, are you unmuted now?
Yes, I believe so.
Yes.
Always good to see you, Scott.
Yeah,
You've
Joe.
added so much to our meetings over the years and to the community. But a couple of things with the city. There is a tendency with some of their apps of over-promising and under-delivering.
Mhm.
Not a remedy for success. I think they need to reverse that. Finding problems or finding areas that need work has never been a problem.
No.
It's fixing them that needs a problem. On to the community planning groups. I had over the years worked with a number of community planning groups, and I think that they have great opportunity. There are a lot of good people who spend a lot of time in that, but they need the representation with the city as well. As far as the balance in there, when I worked with a community group, I would do some active recruiting to fill in different areas of the community that I felt were not representative. I just asked them to attend one meeting. If they liked, they could attend more. Most of them did. But the other part is that they have to give them some voice. It doesn't have to be yay or nay on something, but they must be heard. And that is, I think, always a dangerous political calculation, but they have to engage those communities because they really put a lot of work into it, and the city needs that because that's where it comes from. Thank you. Appreciate all your time.
I mean, a related discussion actually that's going on right now is the mayor is going to hire a new planning director. And I think all of you know, the planning directors in the past have varied in the sense of how prominent they are in the community. But in decades ago, the planning directors were very big deals in San Diego. And I think the mayor's choice will be very interesting. I have heard that he does not want a planning director who will be sort of an independent personality from the mayor's office, and in fact prefers somebody who will, be more subordinate and passive in that situation. And I think he's getting a lot of pressure from architect groups and others to find somebody who can help the city go through all of these discussions with a design-oriented focus. If you think about it, there's really sometimes only one route out of a sticky fight between residents and developers, and that can be in design. Design can really help make sure things look and feel better, make sure that they accommodate the community better. And I think the city's decision to either embrace design or to avoid, a kind of design visionary in that role will be really interesting, and we'll follow that, I think, in the next couple of weeks.
Hey, who else?
I
Mike.
Hi, thank you very much. Have you analyzed very carefully the 5 responses for the sports arena, the options for developing it? It's hard for me to come to conclusions as to which one I think is the best. Have you and your group done that? And what are your current thoughts on the 5 options, please? Thank you.
Yeah. I can't say I'm an expert on each one, and I wouldn't want to pretend to be. They are proposing very similar elements, except for one of them, which I think very clearly minimizes the arena aspect of it and emphasizes the housing aspect of it. And that's the one by Andrew Malik and the housing, Susan Baldwin, those folks. And so I do know that there is a kind of weird dance going on because none of them want to work under the height limit that's in the community now after the effort to remove the height limit in Measure E was at least temporarily thrown out by a court. Now the city hopes to appeal that decision. Just for some review, Measure E removed the height limit from the Midway community planning area, and the 30-foot height limit that was imposed by voters 50 years ago on the coast. The Measure E, which did that, they opponents argue did not consider the views that might occur or might be obstructed or changed by what was by taller buildings there, and that view that impact should have been studied as part of a special EIR was one that the judge agreed with. So that is the status of that case right now. And if that holds, then none of those 5 bidders will want to continue with their bids for that land. So the city is promising to simultaneously appeal that decision, but also to put forward another vote on the height limit, this time with all of its T's crossed and I's dotted. So that is something you could probably expect on the ballot in November. Now, whether they get that together or not is something we're going to be watching very closely. It could also get punted to 2024, which might allow for the appeal, but that would also disregard or sort of diminish the interest of these bidders. I think that what the city is going to be looking for more than anything is actually the bidders rather than the specifics that they outlined, and the partnership that they want to build with one of those entities, because the things they're putting out now aren't going to be locked in stone. The city will basically begin a negotiation with the winning bidder and then put forward a plan for the city council to see. So all the numbers of the units and the renderings are all kind of not worthless, but they don't hold any sort of enforceability right now. And so I don't have any specific insights on how you should navigate the 5 or the 4 that are very similar. I do think we should have a bigger conversation about whether an arena should be there or not. I think again, the history that I looked into about why it ended up where it is plenty disturbing, but also I think that it's not entirely clear to me that that's the best place for a sports arena to be. So maybe this setback will force that discussion to go forward in a different way as well. So that's the long and short of it. I guess in short, I can't help you distinguish the 4 or 5 that are about the same. But I do think there's bigger problems for the city right now.
Okay, Andrea Tevlin, are you wanting to ask a question?
Yeah, I'm having trouble. Are you hearing me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm having trouble with my camera, so I'm not.
Okay, well, we hear you. And by the way, we're just thrilled that you joined REA.
Yeah,
So
hey.
thank you. Go ahead.
So Scott, you were kind of rough on the mayor about him not taking any position or even acting like he was even looking at them with regard to new resources.
Yeah.
How do you, when are we, I worked on this for 16 years, and when are we need money?
Yeah.
And yet I know we have we don't, the community doesn't have a lot of trust, and there are going to be so many competing items over the next 10 whatever years. And just what do we do about this?
Yeah, so there are basically 4 things on the table right now.
I know.
One was the Parks and Library proposal for a parcel tax. Parks Foundation and Library Foundation put that forward. They had decided to punt to the 2024 election, so that one's off the table. The second one was the proposal to add either parcel or property or different tax for stormwater. The city has some obligations to clean up and better channel the water that runs off your homes and streets and driveways when it rains. There are a lot of unions that would love that work, and they were putting forward a plan to add a tax. They were hoping that the city would put that on the ballot. The city council president told us that he was supportive, but didn't know if it would go forward or not. The third one was the sales tax to support transit and buses and other highway improvements. And they always say potholes, for those of you worried about streets. And that would be a tax increase, sales tax increase for the Sandag transit stuff. That is going forward. And the mayor, he wouldn't, let me do the fourth one real quick. So the fourth one was the proposal by Council President Sean Elo Rivera to remove the prohibition in the city charter on charging a special fee for tax collection at mostly single-family homes within the city of San Diego. It's hard to say that without tripping over some nuance to that whole discussion. You obviously are most familiar with the People's Ordinance, but he wants to remove the People's Ordinance law that says the city cannot charge a fee for that street side trash collection. Now, that wouldn't itself put in a fee, but it would allow the city to begin the process of studying the fee. As you probably know, the cities can put together fees if the people paying the fees are the beneficiaries of the service that the fees are paying for without a special vote of the people. And so if they get the restriction on the trash fee removed, then they can go forward with that free process. So those are the 4 that were considered. Like I said, the unions that are supporting the transit deal, they are going forward. They are getting the signatures. It will almost certainly be on the ballot. And the libraries punted to the 2024, and the other 2 were unsure of. Now, the mayor's position, when in his State of the City speech, he said nothing about whether he supported any of these. And we were like, well, why? You're the mayor. Do you have not any perspective on these things? And they said, we will consider each one if they qualify for the ballot, as though he, as the mayor, would have no role in whether that actually happened or not. If he endorsed or supported them, that could happen. That all said, the other day, the union IBEW, that's one of the unions supporting the transit tax, posted a photo on Twitter of the mayor signing their petition. So that was the first sign we got that he supports that. I think what's happening is the other tax increase that's sort of in the balance right now was the one from right before the pandemic, the Measure C to increase the hotel room tax to fund the convention center expansion and homelessness and road repair. That increase to the hotel room tax is in limbo because the city, of course, is arguing that it actually passed, even though it got just short of 2/3, because as a citizens initiative, according to the new interpretation of the law across the state, citizens initiatives, even if they raise taxes, only need 50% of the vote plus 1. The counter, so they're dealing with basically 2 different arguments against that. One is that the city expressly said it would need 2/3, not only once, but twice in the ballot measure, in the materials. And thus regardless of these other interpretations of the law, that's a contract with the city's voters, and that was not met, and thus it shouldn't go forward. There was another case that had a similar sort of nuance in another part of the state that did get approved as having passed. So the city felt good about that one. The second argument, though, and this one's advanced by Donna Fry and others, she's saying that the city, this wasn't a citizens initiative, even though it was put on the ballot by signatures, because the mayor was so deeply involved. And this is an argument familiar to those within the retirement system world, that the city was so directly involved as the mayor and others in creating that citizens initiative that it wasn't actually a citizens initiative. It was a government initiative, and thus it needed 2/3 of the vote and doesn't fall under that exemption. I think that the mayor's reluctance to weigh in on these ballot measures is probably a result of that if there is an argument that the mayor can sully this whole thing by being involved with it, that they're choosing to be cautious and stay out of it. And that's a long way of saying, I think that the transit one is going forward. I think there's still a chance that the hotel room tax increase goes forward. I would put it probably 50-50 though on that. And then I think that the library one's getting punted, and the trash one is, I think 2080 that it gets on the ballot. I do not think it gets on the ballot.
Well, we've got to wrap it up, Scott, but we want to thank you very, very much for participating with us and speaking to us again. You did a great job, and we really appreciate it and really appreciate the Voice of San Diego. So keep up the good work.
Yeah, thank you. I haven't seen the spaghetti come. Is that coming?
Yeah, it's in the mail.
Oh, okay. All right.
So,
Thank you, guys. No, anytime, and thank you so much for your partnership and support. You're a great group, and anytime I can come talk, I will.
that's great. Thank you, Scott. And thank everybody for participating today. We could go on for hours, but time has come to wrap it up. And I want to thank you, Scott, and thank all of our members that participated today. And hopefully, folks, we'll see you again next month.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Thank you. People are afraid to are welcome to stay around a few minutes before we close it off. Socialize.